Cream of chicken soup has always been part of British food culture. Simple, comforting, and perfect for cold days. But most of you are buying the wrong tin. Some soups are rich, warming bowls of proper comfort that deserve a place in your cupboard. Others are watery tubes of starch and clever marketing with barely any real chicken, that have no business charging the prices they do. Tonight, I'm exposing the 5 worst tins that might not be worth your money and revealing the 4 best soups that actually deliver flavor and value. We are ranking the biggest cream of chicken brands on UK supermarket shelves from absolute worst to surprising best, based on ingredients, taste test scores, and what you actually get for your money. Subscribe now, because our number 1 pick is going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about this aisle. 1. Heinz Cream of Chicken Soup. Let's start with the biggest name in the aisle, Heinz, the iconic red tin that generations of British families have reached for on autopilot. You see it, you trust it, you buy it. But here's what the label actually says. Chicken content, just 3%. The thick, creamy body you've always assumed came from a proper chicken stock. Modified cornflour for thickness, rapeseed oil for that rich mouthfeel, phosphate stabilizers to keep the texture consistent on the shelf. And 1 full tin contains 1.7 grams of salt. Now, here's the part that stings most. Heinz charges £1.65 for that tin. And when UK taste testers actually put it in a bowl, it scored just 6 out of 10. The verdict? Slightly gloopy, lacking in real chicken flavor. And the conclusion was blunt. You would expect more for the price. For the most trusted name in this aisle, that is a damning result. 2. Asda Cream of Chicken Soup. Now here's where things get genuinely uncomfortable, because Asda's own cream of chicken soup costs around 60p, less than £1. And when you look at the label, water first, modified maize starch doing the thickening, rapeseed oil for richness. It looks almost identical in structure to the tin we just talked about. The chicken content sits at around 2%. That's actually lower than Heinz. So what exactly are you paying the extra money for when you go premium? The honest answer is branding. You're paying for the name on the tin and the decades of habit it represents. In a category like this, the supermarket own brand is often the more honest transaction. It's cheap, it doesn't pretend to be something it isn't, and structurally, it's not far behind the brands charging nearly 3 times the price. That should make you think twice next time you reach for the famous label without looking. 3. Tesco Cream of Chicken Soup. Tesco's version costs just 59p. And on paper, the label is actually stronger than you might expect. Chicken at 5%, one of the higher figures we found, and salt at just 0.44 grams per 100 grams, which is among the lowest in the entire category. But then, the taste test tells a very different story. Testers rated it just 5 out of 10. They described it as thin, watery, with little evidence of actual chicken pieces and a flat, uninspiring flavor. And that gap between what the label promises and what ends up in your bowl is exactly the story of this aisle. The formula is built for shelf stability, not depth. 4. Baxter's Favorites Cream of Chicken. Here's the one that will genuinely frustrate you. Cream of chicken is listed at £2.15 at Waitrose. That's the most expensive tin we investigated tonight. And when you look at the label, it does have some things going for it. Chicken at 5%, double cream at 3.5%. On paper, it sounds premium. But then you check the consumer rating on the Waitrose listing itself. 2 out of 5 stars. From the people who actually bought it at the most premium price in this category. The taste test backed that up completely. Testers scored it 6 out of 10. Noted that the flavor lacked real depth and said it leaned too peppery, but the recurring theme appeared again. It does not justify the premium. When the most expensive tin in the aisle scores the same as the cheapest ones, you have to ask, what exactly are you paying for? Keep watching, because better options are coming. 5. Campbell's Condensed Cream of Chicken. Campbell's is a different beast entirely, and understanding that is the key to judging it fairly. This is a condensed soup, sold at Tesco for £1.50 for a 295-gram tin, and it's designed as much as a cooking ingredient as it is a bowl of soup. The chicken content sits at 4%, and the salt per 100 grams is notably higher than several of the supermarket tins we've looked at. The ingredient list includes modified maize starch, rapeseed oil, and not 1 but 2 forms of yeast extract, autolyzed yeast and yeast extract, both used to build that deep, savory flavor without adding more meat. If you open it expecting a delicate homemade soup experience, you will be disappointed. But if you use it the way it was designed, in pies, casseroles, and sauces, the format starts to make a lot more sense. So those were the 5 worst offenders in this aisle. Overpriced, underwhelming, and built more on marketing than on real chicken. But now for the good news, because not every tin in this category is letting you down. These next 4 soups actually deliver, whether that's on flavor, value, or both. And one of them costs just 65 pence and outscored every single premium tin we just exposed. Let's get into it. Lidl's Newgate. Cream of chicken is one of the hardest tins to pin down. Lidl's own website simply tells you to check the price in store, which tells you something about how this brand operates, but the ingredient information reproduced from the label follows the now familiar pattern. Water first, chicken at 3%, modified maize starch, rapeseed oil, a little double cream, and then a long tail of bouillon, yeast extracts, and colorings. On paper, it is not doing anything dramatically different from what we've seen across this entire aisle. But Newgate lands in the better half of this list for a simple reason. At a budget price point, if this tin delivers a warm, filling bowl that feels more substantial than you paid for, that is an honest exchange. Not every soup has to be gourmet. Sometimes the product that knows exactly what it is and prices accordingly is the most trustworthy one on the shelf. M&S Cream of Chicken Soup. This is the one that surprised everyone. Cream of chicken soup is priced at 65 pence on Ocado. That is budget territory, barely more than the cheapest tins in this video. And yet, in the UK taste test, it scored 8 out of 10, the highest score of every product we investigated tonight. The ingredient list includes chicken breast, double cream, and chicken stock. Still not a high chicken product at 3%. But the formulation feels different in intent and in the bowl. Testers praised the creamy viscosity and balanced seasoning, though they did note a fennel-forward flavor that won't suit every palate. But here's the point. This tin doesn't pretend to be luxury. It doesn't charge a nostalgia premium. It just delivers a genuinely comforting bowl of soup at a price that makes complete sense. In a category full of over-promising and under-delivering, M&S quietly gets it right. Sainsbury's Cream of Chicken Soup. Sainsbury's comes in at around 63 pence, and in the UK taste test, it scored 6 out of 10. Testers described it as darker than expected, slightly gloopy, with only a small amount of shredded chicken and a depth of flavor that disappointed. Now the ingredient label shows chicken at 5%, which matches Tesco and Baxter's on paper, with modified maize starch and rapeseed oil doing the structural heavy lifting, plus dairy ingredients to build the creamy profile. So why does the experience fall short when the numbers look reasonable? That's the question this whole aisle raises. The ingredients across most of these tins are remarkably similar. The difference comes down to execution, the seasoning balance, the texture, and how much you actually perceive chicken when you eat it. Sainsbury's hits the middle of the road in every direction, not the worst value here, but not exciting either. Aldi Bramwell's Cream of Chicken Soup. 59 pence for a 400-gram tin. One of the cheapest in this entire investigation. Chicken content sits at around 3%, with a familiar thickened base built from cornflour and dairy. But here's what stands out. In the Saga UK taste test, Bramwell's scored 7 out of 10. That's higher than Heinz, higher than Baxter's, higher than Sainsbury's and Tesco. Testers described it as appetizing and more stock-forward than creamy, with a peppery tang, though they did note the shredded chicken lacked in quantity. For 59 pence, that result is quietly remarkable. This is not a gourmet tin. Nobody is pretending it is. But it is a budget comfort product that does enough. And in a category where a £2.15 tin scored the same out of 10 as the cheapest option, that says everything about where the real value in this aisle actually sits. So here's what tonight's investigation actually revealed. Across every price point in this aisle, from 59 pence to £2.15, the structural ingredients are almost identical. Water, starch, rapeseed oil, low single-digit chicken percentages, and a creaminess built from stabilizers and fats, not from a proper chicken stock base. The marketing says comfort. The label tells a different story. The most expensive tin scored the same in taste tests as some of the cheapest. And the biggest surprise of the night, the tin that scored highest, cost 65 pence from Marks & Spencer.